y'all? My name is Ryan Coleman, aka Rocco Fit, and I am here with
Evangeline DeAndre Lees.
and we are Unapologetically Mindful. The gist of this podcast is to really get people to understand that in order to be able to thrive in this life, you have to show up in the world as your most authentic, unapologetic self. And one of the biggest things that we want to preach to the community, is optimization within your mind, body, and spirit. So us as a pair are collectively working in order to be able to change the stigma between how the masculine and feminine energy in society is viewed, and ultimately being able to bring on guests that be able to add productive insight to you all.
And that includes diving deep in with yourself so that you can build intimate relationships with the people around you and raise a vibration. So we're going to be talking about everything mindfulness.
What's going on, y'all? We are back at it. So this week we are going to be doing a relationship check-in. And actually the first time we did this, we were in Tennessee. We had gotten a cabin. It was back in November. And we were just in the hot tub, and that was the first time that I had ever experienced doing a relationship check-in, and it was a very like humbling moment. It was one of those moments where it's like, you really got to kind of put your pride to the side. You got to take in that critical feedback from your partner. But also I think what makes it so dope is it's good and bad. So it's just one of those things that you got to have on a regular basis to be able to know, like, what you're doing that's good, what you're doing that can be better, so ultimately, the relationship can continue to evolve and grow. But, if it's something that you kind of neglect, then it's kind of hard to get that feedback.
Yeah, I can say I actually introduced him to like the relationship check-in, and it's because I heard about it, and it's something that my parents also did, and I was just like, it's just something that makes sense, because as we're getting in a relationship, when we're with a person, we can get mad comfortable thinking that this person knows me. Like, you're supposed to know everything that I love, you're supposed to know how you make me feel from time to time. You're supposed to know, like, how I'm feeling without even telling you, and that is just simply not the truth. Like, a lot of times things are left unsaid because we may not want, the other person to feel a certain way, or we may think, oh, Ryan should just know. But the reality is, like, if I'm not bringing something to the table, he will never know that there's a problem. And that can lead to a lot of resentment. And it's a moment to help us reflect and grow and continuously grow within our relationship, so that we're constantly getting what we need out of it. Just like we check in with ourselves on a regular basis, and we have to check in with our relationship. And I can honestly say, even with self, like taking that time to check in, because sometimes we don't know ourselves. Sometimes we're not seeing, how we're really operating as human beings. Same as in relationships. Sometimes I'm not aware of what I may be doing in a relationship that, he may, I wouldn't say necessarily not like, but he may want to see improvement, or he has needs that are unmet that I can help meet his needs. I think that each time that we check in, that allows us to kind of start off on a clean slate. So I just want to take a moment to run you through a check-in. And this is something that we are doing. Like, we don't know what we're saying today. Like, I went ahead and came up with our check-in questions, and he doesn't even know what is really going on.
It's going to get real unapologetically mindful.
So I think this is something that you should do on a regular basis, if not on a quarterly basis, at least once a year. And I would say once a year when it works for you. So once a year before the yearly like anniversary or whatever you may have, just so you reach that moment within yourselves and you're able to actually celebrate the success of your relationship and not have things that are unsaid, and you're just celebrating this relationship. And after that is just like, okay, but I still feel this type of way. no, this is something that should be, done from time to time just to check in. So I would say, let's jump into the first. And what do we love about each other, and what have we learned about each other? So starting off on like a good note.
So I can definitely say, like, off the top of my head, like, that definitely, like, that caregiving nature that you provide. I think, like, out of the relationships that, not even just like being a caregiver, but like teaching me things in terms of, like, taking care of myself as well, because they're when I first got with you, I started to realize how much you actually like poured into yourself. And I was in the midst of, like, what I call my spiritual awakening, and I was doing so much. But when I got with you, I realized there was a lot of things that I was neglecting, like even such as my hair. Like, I wasn't taking the time to make sure it was properly moisturized. I wasn't washing my face. I wasn't doing things like that a lot of men probably don't do. So, with you having, that caregiving personality, like, you really ensured that, like, you taught me these things in order to be able to make me better in that sense, so I can be able to, spread that onto other people. And then, like, in addition to that, like, you're a very resilient individual. Like, you go through things and you bounce back from them, like, very quickly. And even throughout, like, your life, I would say, like, you've been through a lot of traumatic experiences, but, like, your ability to be able to, not only recognize those, like, when you may get triggered, but also just being able to, like, heal from those things. I would say that's one of the biggest things that we've been able to learn from each other, because, like, we both came into a point where we both met each other at a point where we were healing, right? And so within that, like, we had to we were bringing a lot of triggers up for each other, and we had to work through that. We had to heal through that. Like, as you mentioned before, like, you feel like sometimes, like, you might bring a lot to the table and stuff like that. But, like, for me, that's good, because, like, one of my low points was communication. So I, going into this relationship, made it a priority that's like, I need to communicate. So even if during times where it's like, I might not necessarily want to hear certain things, or just like, why we gotta do this right now, like, it's still very good for me in that sense. And, like, you really give me the space to be my most true authentic self. Like, you don't judge me. You don't, like, you literally just let me be Ryan.
I just
And
laugh.
yeah, you laugh, and I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that, because, like, I don't try to, like, intentionally, like, be funny, but I'll be saying things, and, like, Van just, like, always, she laughs at just about everything I say. And that honestly is so, like, heartwarming for me, because, I'm just like, that always was, growing up, I was a bigger kid and stuff like that, so I was made fun of because I was fat and stuff like that. But how I would get girls back in the day is, like, with that little sense of humor I would have.
Draws off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, man, I honestly feel like I can go on and on all day in terms of, what I love about you. But ultimately, I really just love, and how you really represent, that divine feminine nature in its entirety. But also, you have that power to step into your masculine, and you get things done. You're locked in on your structure. When it comes to finances, there's been so much that I've learned, and that's been one of my weakest points. I think it's a karmic lesson for me. I'm never struggled with making money, but, like, spending money and stuff like that. And you're more, coming into the relationship, you were a lot more financially literate and stuff like that. So, like, I learned a lot from you in that. So, you just being more within that true divine feminine allows me to really walk into my power within that divine masculine nature. So, I really, I love just about everything about you. Like, that's what, there's not too many, there's not really, off the top of the dome, I can't think of too many bad things that I would say, and that's a reflection of our relationship.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would say what I love about you, the one thing, like when I first met you, that I was like, oh, I love this. I was able to actually just relax in your presence, because within my past relationships, I had to be more of that like masculine figure. But within the relationship with you, I 1000% trust your like leadership. I like that you're like, no, I'll do this. Sometimes I'm like, you don't have to do everything. Like you don't have to do everything yourself, because I'm used to like doing. But I like the fact that I'm able to actually trust in your leadership. I love the fact that you honestly teach me how to continue to like stand up for myself and put my foot down, even when it comes to you. Like you're just like, no, you need to communicate this with me. You need to let me know. Like don't care how I feel in the moment. Don't care about what I'm going through. Just like let me know. You force me into that position of really standing my ground. And also you also teach me communication, because I'd be so quick to just shut down and just be like, you know what, I don't want to say anything, and you pull that out of me, and that gives me a chance to like really speak my truth more often. But yeah, I just love, that's like the top thing that I love about you, is that leadership. I love the fact that you can always just make me laugh. Cause like I don't even know why I be laughing at this man. Like he just be doing the craziest things, and I just be laughing at him. And the fact that you just exposed me to so much adventure. You're such an adventurous person. You'll literally do anything. Like I can say that I've had the most adventure with you, whether it's everyday life or when we're on vacations. Oh, and I love that part too. The fact that we go on vacation and this man got a whole itinerary, okay? Like he be having things to do. Yeah, I just love like overall you're just like that complete masculine figure for me. And you're very much, strong headed. You just teach me how to continue to walk within my power. And I think that's why we get along so well, is because like we both allow each other to really walk in that power, but also like communicate when like, hey, you may be going a little bit too far from right now. We constantly learn from each other on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah, and one thing that I would add to that too is like you have really taught me how to move from a place of unconditional love. Because you always like there would be absolutely no judgment, no matter what I did. You were a very forgiving person. You were very compassionate, and for a long time in my life, like I moved from a space where like I had my emotions were shut down, my heart was closed, and I loved very much with condition, with a lot of people, and that wasn't always who I was. It was just certain experiences and stuff like that that kind of closed me off. But ultimately, like, I'm just like a big grizzly bear. I like to be this person, like, if you poke the bear, like, yeah, shit might probably get real. Like, I wouldn't recommend. But, like, I just want to love. Like, ultimately, love is the highest frequency. So, like, you've really been able to teach me how to move from that place. And even with, outside of our relationship, just on a day-to-day basis, and just, like, showing people unconditional love, being more compassionate and, empathetic towards people. And it just really has helped me just in terms of not only our relationship, but the interpersonal relationships that I have outside of this as well.
Yeah, and I want to also add something. I love the increasing structure that you like put into my life. Like this man makes me take my vitamins. I am not good at taking my vitamins, yo.
Nope.
This man makes sure like he's like, well, have you ate? Have you drank your water? Have you taken your vitamins? Like, are you taking care of yourself? Maybe you don't need to do.
You should just be like, I got a headache. I'm tired. And then I'm like, have you ate? And you're like, no, I haven't really ate today. And I'm just like, common denominator.
Yeah, like you're a reflection of like your overall health and wellness. And even though we're both in that, like we both are serious about our health and wellness, like he is very much like so structured in it that like he makes sure like I stay in line. And stay accountable on, doing, practicing what I preach as well. So like I love that. And then again, your integrity. Like you do what you say you gonna do.
Yeah.
That, like I love that.
Yeah, and I would say both of those kind of stem from the military. That was one of the values, like integrity. That was one of the highest values that kind of like latched on to me. And it's like, although I might not always do it when someone expects it out of me, like if I say that I'm gonna do something, I'm always gonna follow through. Like I hold myself high on that character and like getting things done, because at the end of the day, like character, our integrity is all we have.
Yeah.
And once we lose that, it's hard for a person to trust you, it's hard for a person to respect you, and that, like at that point there's not much of a relationship. And then even again with the military and structure, like that's where a lot of my, all right, I'm to the T on everything. So
Very much true.
yeah.
Okay, so within my next question, is this relationship going in direction that you wanted to go? And if not, can we get there? Or how can we get closer to getting there?
I would most definitely say it's going in the direction that I want. And I would say that because like it's kind of been phases, like we went through a year. Well, before we were even together, first and foremost, we went through a whole year of just like trial and error and trying to figure things out and like saying like, oh, I'm not talking to you no more. And then next thing you know is right back at it. So like, I think that year of actually taking time to be friends, getting, become best friends, taking time to get to know each other, like that was highly impactful with where we're at now. And then kind of flowing into, that next year, that's where we more or less kind of started forming the basis of like everything within like how we operate within the relationship, how we operate like in true partnership within that relationship, essentially making life easier for each other and being one in that term. I think right now we're kind of in this period where it's like, Omni's in this place where it's growing expeditiously, and like there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of sacrifice that's having to take place, and I think that you're in that place as well. And even in terms of like intentionally social, like how you have been able, you and your business have been able to grow so much faster, just because of like the lessons that I've learned. So that's been a huge part. But I think again, going back to sacrifice, like we're in a period of sacrifice, so we're having to, sacrifice, going out and spending time with, friends as much as we want to, going out and going on dates and stuff like that as we want, as much as we want to. But ultimately, like, we identified that and we accepted it, and we are like, ultimately at the end of the day, we're committing to this sacrifice at 28 years old, so that once we're hitting our 30s, like, by the time I think we both agree, by the time we hit 40, like we're trying to be retired, like I want to be an author, living on an island, homeschooling the kids, not having to worry about stuff, heavy on the island, like, I want to be able to add value and be omnipresent, which is essentially having the ability to have the impact, but being everywhere at once. So I won't necessarily have to physically be there. And so I feel like this journey that we're on in terms of our relationship, we're going exactly the direction that we need to go. And, everything already is. So everything that essentially is happening the exact way that it's supposed to be happening. And honestly, I wouldn't say that, there's much that I would change in terms of how we can get there, just continuing to, practice and do things like being intentional with how we move within our relationship, having these moments of check-ins, just continue to move from that place of unconditional love ultimately, and just being able to grow. Like the more we take time to, form that cohesion as one, like it's just going to continue to naturally flow.
Yeah, and I can definitely say that you really put me in that mindset of moving as one, because like in the beginning of our relationship, I was more like, it's me and then there's you. Like even though we're together, it's still me and then there's you, and you're like, no, we need to be at one. But I agree. I think that our relationship is moving in a direction that I am completely satisfied with right now. Like you said, we do have like those moments, like we have to make those sacrifices. We are two entrepreneurs, so we have to constantly communicate. Like we constantly communicate. And I think that is the best thing that we have been doing for our relationship. And that's something that we can continue to do. And I would just say, like, on both of our ends, with us being those two entrepreneurs, continuing to move from that place of unconditional love by practicing patience with each other. Like, I can say that, lately, because it has been like this past year, so it's only February. And this past year so far,
It's been
January,
a hell of a
February
year.
has been a hell of a year. It's been so hectic. It's been crazy. It's been busy. And, we can have times where you're just like more easily irritable. So within that process, like me being more patient with you and understanding like why you're this way and you being more patient with me is just the key, especially with us going through these high, intense, stressful times in our lives. And I can really just say, like, that's it. Just continue to practice unconditional love and just by giving each other that patience that we both deserve.
And so, what would you say is a goal of yours within the relationship in this next year?
Mm, I'll put that down. And I didn't really think about it until now. So I think the goal is to just prioritize more quality time within our actual relationship, as far as like dates and, spending more time to be that inner child version of ourselves together. We already like work well together and everything. So just prioritizing more quality time, date nights, increasing our intimacy. I know that my ass be fucking tired. Like my intimacy has gone like down just because of the workload and me being tired. And I appreciate the fact that you've been so like understanding of that. Um, I appreciate that immensely because like as a woman, sometimes that can be kind of a lot of pressure on us to think that we have to perform all of the time. But um, I think that just increasing that quality time so we can get back more into like more intimacy. Like, I don't want to say like we were when we first met or when we, throughout that, first year and last year, but just increasing it of with what works for us right now.
Yeah, and I think even within that, something I would say as one of the goals would be to take more time to disconnect.
Okay.
Disconnect from just overall society, just because like we are a lot for a lot of people. Whether that's inspiration, whether that's coaches, whether it's family and trying to support them. Like we do a lot for a lot of people, and many times it can be detrimental for ourselves, it can be detrimental for our relationships. So really just kind of being more firm on taking that time to disconnect and really like getting back into like a groove of like vacations and going on vacations and going on trips and stuff like that, and just really taking the time for that adventure, because that really puts us at that ultimate state of bliss.
Yeah.
That puts us at a state where we can go out, do things, and not have to worry about anything. And I also feel like sometimes with that we have trouble. It's like not worrying about something, because
Yeah.
even when we do disconnect, we feel like we're always constantly supposed to be doing something, and it's almost like a guilt to that sense that we carry with us. So I think definitely taking more time, just even on week to week basis, to disconnect. But also something else I would love to do, is continue to, because one thing that I feel like a lot of people throw out there that I don't necessarily. I mean, like, I love it. I think it's dope, but it's not like something that makes or breaks me. But, like, a lot of people do see us in that sense as like a power couple, but within seeing someone in a power couple, I think that something that would be dope for, the people to see is kind of like the process in order it takes to not only get there, but maintain that. because there's been a lot of people that I've known who have been in these positions of power couples, and they'll make it look like everything is sweet and make it look like everything is good when behind closed doors they're really just doing it for Instagram. They're just really doing it to kind of look good rather than that actually being the case. So I want to show the people what a true authentic power couple actually looks like. I want them to, obviously not give people like too much insight into our life, but I want to give them enough insight and add enough value to them that like they can continue to work and grow on, their own relationships and stuff like that. And, essentially be inspired by how we move. Like, one thing that like I know we covered this in a previous episode before, but like your willingness to be accepting of like me having other female counterparts, like other female friends, other people that I can go to for guidance, and that doesn't make you feel insecure. Like you're very secure because you trust me, you trust what I'm gonna do. Like that like that is kind of necessary to have those relationships of opposite sex and stuff like that. And I think that I do the same thing for you, but there's a lot of relationships and even friendships that we have, and like I think that that's kind of like a thing where they're just like, no, we don't have friends. I don't know how you guys have friends with the opposite sex. So it's like, well, it takes two people who unconditionally love each other, that are disciplined, that have self-control first and foremost of their sexual desires, because a lot of a society can't control their sexual desires. So I just think that just given this whole season on this podcast, it is one of my goals, because it's all about relationships, interpersonal, intimate, whatever the case may be. So I really want to be vulnerable. I really want to express myself in a sense that's going to be able to help people, possibly even change the complexities of their relationship in a way that works for the best.
Yeah. And I love the fact that we're like two individuals that are very unapologetic, hence the name, unapologetically mindful, and able to be very authentic in the fact that, we're able to share our duality, the ups, the downs, the bads, the ugly. We have no judgment here, and we're able to share that with the world. And I think it's important for us to continue to do that. What I challenge you all to do is, if you are in a relationship or even within your friendships, like if there's something going on, or just if you haven't checked in a while, just take a moment to really check in with the person, ask him the questions. If there's any needs that are left unmet, communicate those needs, because communication will be your best friend, and the check-ins are always worth it. And during these check-ins, just always come from a place of love and from understanding, because we are ultimately individual people trying to commingle with the people around us. So make sure you take the moment to just check in.
Yeah, and ultimately remain compassionate in the sense that you never know what somebody else is going through. And when we take the time to be vulnerable, when we take the time to do these check-ins and have these conversations, a lot of the times we'll see that a lot of people that we're surrounded with are going through maybe not the exact same thing, but they're going through very similar things, just in their own perspective and their own perception. Like, everybody is going through something, and a lot of people don't have the emotional intelligence or the level of vulnerability sometimes to be able to just come to you and openly express it. So one thing that I would challenge everybody with is send however many people it may be, create a list of people. Actually, how about this? Reach out to somebody that may have added value to your life at some point, and you, for some reason or another, you might have fell off, but the reason that you fell off wasn't because of, that person, not continuing to add value to your life. You just kind of, whatever the case the life may be. Send that person a voice message, send that person a letter, send that person a text message, check in with that person, because just as you from time to time may think about that person and how they're doing and stuff like that, they may be doing the same for you. But ultimately, if you never take the time in order to put yourself out there in that sense, then you'll never know. So challenge yourself by getting uncomfortable, because it's within that uncomfortability that we grow the most.
All right, and that's it for today, you guys. We'll see you on the next episode.